Remember when you were talking about the TCM devs being aggressive on social media? They do act crappy or like children when responding to people who have legitimate criticism on the game.
I've been wanting to make a video on this for a long time, but I haven't had the proper receipts and data, so I felt it would be irresponsible to make a video on a topic like this. But I'm being told that Scott has receipts. So Scott made a video covering this phenomena that has been happening between the TCM devs and their community, and I kind of want to take a look at it because we all kind of want TCM to succeed in a way, right?
Hey guys, Scott here. Thought I'd take a quick jaunt over in the asymmetrical horror field to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a game that I'm sure most of us have tried out at some point. I stopped playing the game about a week in because I realized that it was pretty shallow. Like, the gameplay was very, there was not much to it. The skill ceiling for family was very low. It essentially just came down to map knowledge, and that was pretty much it. But it was pretty fun playing it when I played it, and that was pretty much all I was expecting. I never really expected it to last very long. Based on the way that the devs created the game, it seemed like their intention was to make a game where you pretend you're in that scenario.
The point of the game is get in and feel like you're living in the world of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's cool and all, but a game like that where you're forced to role play a certain way instead of being a player playing a video game, it's always doomed to fail. It's just not going to work because people will always start to try to optimize things.
And not only that, if you go to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre developers Twitter, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Sissy is about burst damage, literal flurry of attacks, save stamina, use roots to cut off victims rather than chase, blow poison clouds. It doesn't help when you say that your game is a casual game.
And what we don't lean into is the competitive side of it.
But you're teaching your community how to optimize the ever-living out of every single character in the So you say like, relax, take your time, it's a casual game, we don't lean into the competitive side. And like, Sissy is about burst damage. This guy created an instant down Leatherface build, and they're like, you guys should really check this out. When you say
the game's supposed to be fun, the game's not supposed to be competitive,
you're contradicting yourself with your actions. Your words are contradicting your actions.
It's always doomed to fail. It's just not going to work because people will always start to try to optimize things. That's just how it works.
Doesn't help that the devs are doing that.
That's the reason Dead by Daylight has actually succeeded for so long, because they started off in the exact same way, but then they realized, okay, people are not doing this anymore. They're now treating it like an arcade video game. We have to adapt to that. And they did. And Texas Chainsaw is not doing so hot. In fact, it's doing terribly. It's losing about 40% of its player base each month. Now, I do have to admit that this is just PC. It is also on Game Pass.
It's free, I think.
And I have no doubt there are definitely more players there. But there's no reason to assume the trend would be different on PC than it is on anywhere else. And we can gather from this that it's doing bad. In fact, it's doing worse than Friday the 13th did, which had, honestly, even half the players at the start. Their older game, which had numerous lawsuit issues, incredible amounts of bugs. I think the main reason Friday the 13th actually ended up having more players overall is because it was embraced more of a silly game, in my opinion. Just like running people over with cars and shit. It just led to like stupid moments that there was no real skill ceiling in that game either, but it didn't matter because it was just stupid and fun. Texas Chainsaw, I just never got that same feeling.
I think that's probably like the common denominator with a lot of these asymmetrical games. When you compare like Prop Night, VHS, I'm not sure about Home Sweet Home, I'm not sure about last year, but I know Death Garden, every game that doesn't lean into the fun aspects starts to bleed players more. The TCM developers definitely knew that leaning into the fun side was what they had to do to keep their game alive, to get community engagement higher. But like we said earlier, they leaned more into the competitive aspects, right? I don't think playing optimally is wrong. I think as a game developer, teaching your community how to solve your game as fast as possible significantly decreases the amount of development time you have to make decisions. So the faster your community solves your game, the faster they get bored. And the more demand there is for there to be new content. This is why competitive and optimal play usually causes the downfall of asymmetric games, because the community gets bored too quickly. As a game developer, you want your community to be having this tug of war of trying to figure out how to play properly. But if you tell them how to do everything to the best of their ability 100% as fast as possible, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because it cuts down the amount of development time that you have to create new content, to create new game modes. There's a difference between I'm learning and I'm bored, right?
So why is all of this happening? A lot of it comes down to the game itself. is just not built to last. They did not make a game that is future-proofed at all. They made a game that they said in their interviews was designed to be played as if you were role-playing you're in the movie itself. And that's cool for a little while, but then once people realize that you can optimize certain strategies, that just goes out the window, and developers have to accept that. If they don't, their game just will die. People are going to play how they themselves want to play it, not how the devs want to play it. So,
unless you teach them how to optimally play. It's kind of bad, right?
that was one of the first crucial mistakes. I visit their Reddit maybe once every couple of weeks to see what's going on. It's a lack of support, a lack of feedback, and the developers, at least some of them, they just straight up act like children. They're just like the most immature devs I've ever seen in my life. I completely understand not sitting there and taking shit from people that have nothing of value to say. If you're a game developer and someone says, your game fucking sucks, fix your game, you stupid expletive, blah, 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 you fucking suck. That's not really criticism. You're allowed to defend yourself against that. Completely fine. But the problem is, a lot of the times, people will actually offer good, like, actual detailed feedback, and these devs will just still make fun of them. And it's like, this is a really common thing. Like, I see this shit everywhere. In fact, every single top post this past week is just about how the devs are just shitting on people, complaining about very real issues with the game. Honestly, it seems mostly this guy right here, but...
Temper tantrum, no account to be afterwards, nothing will change. Today was the day. I want to remind you of something. You can get what you give with me. We're all capable of being hostile and civil, and we choose where we take things. You cannot come out of the gate swinging, then get upset when someone says literally anything back. This seems reasonable, though. Wait a second. Doesn't this seem reasonable? Got dragged into the other Reddit, and man, y'all are even wilder there. Couple things to clear up. Calling me a chimpanzee bile human is not a game criticism. I'm still not fired. Sorry if that upsets you. I've never had a mental breakdown over gamers. LOL. Found the chimpanzee receipt. Blocked because you came out swinging, calling me names, but then you came running here to cry and shit your pants because I replied. I think you called me a chimpanzee. Lomao. Take your brand new 0 follower account on Twitter and stay blocked. Funny talking about stirring it up, and yet here you are trying to tag me in some flex. Because you got blocked, making weird dick jokes about me like you were a teenager. What, you know, it's like, I don't even know what the other guy said, but this makes him look like a teenager. Was the name calling the criticism you're referring to, or was it a dick? As a game developer in a position of power, with much power comes a lot of responsibility. I know you may be dealing with children and the children are pissing you off, but you need to have thicker skin, man. That's not it, man. That's not it. Matt did not need to make this tweet. It feels like he's making this tweet for validation or a mental scar caused by criticism. But the paradox is that by replying to this, it only makes this guy that called him a chimpanzee to go harder. It's like, you're a gorilla. You're a beach whale. What you give attention to, you feed. What you feed only grows bigger and bigger and bigger. If you don't want people to call you a chimpanzee, you starve it of attention. If you don't want people to say that you should be fired, you should stop giving the attention. If you don't want people to say that, to make you think of you having a mental breakdown, maybe act like you're not having a mental breakdown. You have to look at it like this. Think of like all the people that piss you off as 12-year-olds. And imagine there's a little 12-year-old saying, you're a chimpanzee bile human and like you're inbred and adopted. If a 12-year-old told you this, it shouldn't faze an adult, all right? You're like, this is just a kid, all right? He has no idea what he's talking. Undeveloped, like immature, right? It's just what it is.
Most of it is just not needless bitching. It's just like, hey, we don't like this change. This change is very, very silly. I don't think this is a good idea. And then they're just met with responses basically like children. And that just puts zero faith in your game devs. I'm sorry. I would have no faith in these guys whatsoever. They literally act like children sometimes. And again, I understand needing to defend yourself, but a lot of it is actually real criticism. That's what's going on with this game. It seems like it's a combination of lack of game deck, very slow updates. Then because of that, the lobbies take forever to load. Dwindling player base makes the lobbies take even longer to load. The developers, some of them, I don't know most of them, honestly. The ones I see posting on social media, they act like absolute babies and children, which is just pathetic. Oh, it sucks to see that this is happening to another game in the genre that we love, and it's mostly due to the developers' stubbornness, I guess. So that's what's going on there. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. What you consume is what you become. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre devs, they spend their time angrily browsing Twitter all day, angrily browsing the Reddit all day, how they're bald and they need to get fired, and how they're going to go mentally insane. You can imagine in the developer's position, they're constantly consuming this media over and over again. And they hate those people. They despise people who dehumanize others. And slowly over time, after consuming this type of content, they've become what they hate most. If you look long enough into the void begins to look back through you. So you look at the evil, okay? You look at the evil, and then the evil starts consuming you. And you know Matt, Texas Chainsaw Massacre developer, he stared at the void for far too long. And now it's consuming him, okay? We need to save Matt. We gotta save Matt. Something seriously going wrong. Maybe it's time to do some hot yoga with the wife and kids. Final saying Matt's tweets are different nowadays. Okay, but yeah, I think it still needs to be addressed.